What's going on, traders? A lot to discuss in this video. We're going to go over whether or not the market can continue to see more upside, or are we going to see a dip from this point on? And interesting enough, I talked about this in multiple videos where I don't believe we're anywhere near a crashing point when it comes to the market. And given what happened today, where you saw Nvidia pretty much partnering with everybody left and right, you get a partnership, you get a partnership, Eli Lilly, Nokia, Uber, etc. It was pretty crazy, right? And I'm sure that's going to fuel the thoughts of this being an AI bubble. And you're probably going to see that all over social media. But again, I'm going to stick by what I said in the last video and multiple videos before, where I don't believe we're anywhere near a crash or the AI bubble is going to pop. And the reason why I say that is because when we're looking at the NASDAQ monthly time frame, we're looking at 2007 highs and we're looking at 2021 highs. And you see that we have a rejection here and a rejection here. And it's looking like that we're going to head back towards the top of this trend around 28K, between 28K and 30K. Now, don't get it twisted. I don't believe this is going to happen within the next month or two. It's probably going to take until maybe early 2026 for this move to happen. But given with how fast we saw Nvidia pump towards the upside, it could happen a lot sooner than that, right? And so I'm going to stick by what I said. I do believe we're going to see more upside. Obviously, there's going to be dips along the way, maybe even a correction along the way. But when we're talking about the AI bubble burst, which I do believe we are in an AI bubble, but when we're talking about a crash or AI bubble pop, I don't think we're anywhere near that point. So, screenshot, do what you got to do if you want to, pretty much remark these trends on your chart. We're going to go over, ES as well. So, when you're looking at the ES, pretty much the same thing, right? And you're probably hearing all over social media, the news, whatever the case may be. You're hearing this target of 7K. You're hearing this target of 7,200. You're probably even hearing targets, or you're probably going to hear targets of 7,500, right? And I do believe that we're going to head towards those targets. I do agree, right? I don't disagree with the idea of us heading towards 7,200, even 7K. I mean, we're pretty close to 7K. That goes without saying. And you're looking at the ES monthly time frame, and again, you're looking all the way back at 2001 highs, and then you're looking here at around 2022 highs. And it's looking like, once again, that we're heading towards the top of this trend where we can head as high as about 7,500, 7,600, give or take. Again, this is the monthly time frame, so you shouldn't expect this to happen overnight. I don't think I have to explain that, but you'll be surprised how many people watch these channels and they take everything super literal and expect instant gratification. But as you guys can see, we've been respecting this trend for quite some time, and I don't think this is going to change. And so for now, I do believe, given the current market and just how we're seeing Nvidia just really thrive and just throw money left and right at everything, and open AI news every single day, we're probably going to see a slow continuation towards the upside, where you're going to see individual names pretty much pump left and right, right? So I expect that to happen, or I expect that to happen. I don't think we're going to see anything crazy towards the downside. I would love to see something as far as a correction, or even a dip, but right now it's looking like that's not going to be the case. And so we look at the SPY here, right? And the SPY, as you guys can see, we're looking at the monthly time frame once again, and we're looking all the way back at 2021 highs, and then 2001 highs, and 2021 highs, right? And when you're looking at this, I mean, you can head as high as about 750, which is at the top of this trend. So we can keep going, guys. It doesn't have to stop. Now, again, just to make it clear, probably going to see dips along the way. And so when we're talking about key levels here, we talked about this in the last video where you have this. Let me actually find it here, where you have this breakaway gap, right? And like I said, it's going to take time to fill a breakaway gap. When you form a breakaway gap, it's very hard to fill that gap. And I do expect more upside from this point on. Obviously, you're going to see dips here and there, but until we get within range of this gap, again, I don't think we're going to see anything crazy in regards to downside. Now, if we want to flip bearish, or if I'm looking to flip bearish, what I want to see here, and let's actually mark it out, what I want to see is a break below 677. If we manage to break below 677, then I do imagine that we're going to head towards 670s, low 670s. If we give up 670, then from that point on, I do believe that we're going to start entering correction territory, and I do believe bears are going to take advantage of that opportunity, and we can start heading back towards that 650 target. But for now, best case scenario, if you're looking to be bullish, let's say we do, dump tomorrow or see some type of retest tomorrow towards the downside, and I'm not guaranteeing this is going to happen. I'm just giving you guys hypotheticals. If we do see something like that, I do imagine that we'll probably just at minimum see a retest of 680. You guys know that gaps have very strong support and resistance. And then we just bounce back towards the upside and we continue towards the upside. Again, breakaway gaps are very hard to fill, take a long time to fill. So I don't have any high expectations. Even if we dump towards the downside, I just don't have any high expectations of this getting filled. Would I like to see that happen? Absolutely. But again, even if we do fill this gap, you want to see a break below 677. If you want to play it safe, you could say 675 psych level. So right now, that's what I'm looking at when it comes to the SPY. And when we go back to the monthly time frame, again, the sky is the limit here, guys. You can head as high as 750, especially if we're talking about the ES heading towards 77K, 7200, 7500, so on and so forth. So we got a lot of upside to go. I don't think this bull run is going to end anytime soon. Obviously, you get dips here and there, but it's looking crazy right now. It's looking like we're going to see a pretty crazy rest of the year. And so we look at triple Q's monthly time frame. And I'm sure you guys are getting the idea by now, but it's looking like, triple Q's can head as high as the 700s, lowest maybe 688, 690, more or less. Then again, you look back and you see that 2008 highs, right? You see 2021 highs. And so we have a rejection here, and it's looking like we're heading back towards this point. And then once we get up here, I do believe that we're going to start seeing, a huge influx of bad news. Maybe you see, big tech start cutting back on AI spending, so on and so forth. And that's another thing I want to talk about with you guys is that I don't think the AI bubble is going to burst until we start seeing big tech start announcing that they're cutting back on AI spending. Right? Obviously, the whole Fed rate cut thing. Me personally, I think that's a bunch of noise. I think the market is all about earnings, right? It's all about big tech earnings, in my opinion. Everything else is just noise. And the reason why I say that is because big tech, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, these things are what helps run this country, right? It helps this country to continue to grow, to continue to expand, to continue to be, to create new things, right? And so, if until these companies start really pulling back on AI spending, I don't think we're going to see a crash anytime soon. Now, we do have big tech earnings this week, right? So maybe they announce it this time, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think we're going to see any type of a announcement of AI spending being pulled back until probably 2026. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. So, like I said, when it comes to the triple Qs, you can start heading as high as 750. We go to the daily time frame here, right? And we do have a gap towards the downside. Now, interesting enough, I said this in the Discord. 635 was my target for today, and as you guys can see, we're hitting the top of this trend. And so it goes without saying that it's very much possible that we see a pullback, and maybe, hopefully, we can start seeing at least some of these gaps get filled, whether it's to the downside towards 625, or we see this gap get filled at 620, 617 range, or we hopefully see this gap get filled at around 610. That would be ideal, right? I would really love to see at least at minimum this gap right here at around 617, 618 get filled before continuing back towards the upside. But if we do continue further down, then that's great as well. But for now, it's looking like we continue to see more upside, minus the dips and all that. All right, so that's what we're looking at for the triple Qs. Now, when it comes to semiconductors, when it comes to Nvidia, right? So when we look at cheddar flow, right, a lot of calls came in for Nvidia today, right? We saw a lot of 195 strike calls. We also saw 207.5 strike calls come in as well. Let me actually change my settings real quick because cheddar flow likes to reset after you're pretty much done using it for a certain amount of time. And so we see down here earlier today, we saw, well, not earlier today, but actually about 5 minutes before close, we saw a lot of 195 strike calls, and the money calls come in for October 31st at a 1.5 million premium, 1.7 million premium. You guys get the idea. And we even look to the right here and we see 207.5 strike calls come in for October 31st as well. And these are up 44%. And I'm assuming that Nvidia is just going to continue to pump after hours, right? You scroll down, and as you guys can see, there's a lot of these 195 calls coming in. So it's looking like investors are expecting or not expecting Nvidia to get any lower than 195. Now they could take profit in the morning. We don't know for sure, but yeah, a lot of calls have been coming in for Nvidia. And so when we're looking at Nvidia, and once again, I mean, we can go to the monthly time frame here. I gave you guys a price target, and I've talked about this price target multiple times. That I do believe Nvidia is going to see a price target of 230. But honestly, we can head much higher than that. I mean, again, you have this rejection here all the way in what 2004. You have a rejection here at around 2021. You're going to see 2021 in a lot of these, right? 2024 highs, right? You keep seeing rejections in these areas, and so right now it's looking like Nvidia is going to head towards 230 or as high as 230, possibly even higher than that, maybe at around 250. And then from there, we're probably going to see some type of rejection towards the downside before continuing back towards the upside. Now, when we're looking at other things such as semiconductor ETFs, right? SMH, and this was another thing we talked about, right? We talked about SMH heading higher. Now, on a monthly time frame, you're probably looking at this and you're like, oh, we don't have a lot of space left towards the upside. Well, that's where you would be wrong because when you go to the much smaller time frames here, right, you do have plenty of space towards the upside, and you can start heading as high as 380. So yeah, we still got a little space towards the upside. Now, will this happen tomorrow? I can't say for sure, but yeah, I mean, we got plenty of space towards the upside, and right now it's looking like we can head as high as 380. Now, if we manage to dip towards the downside here, then we're just creating more space for the upside. So we do have a gap here at around 352, 350, and then 347, 345 more or less. And then at that point, we're just creating more space. So something you want to pay attention to when it comes to semiconductor ETF SMH, SOXX. This one is pretty interesting in my opinion because you are at a wall or you're getting close to this wall here at around 310, 311. And so we go to the monthly time frame here, and you have basically two trend lines here, right? So you have this one right here, this red one here, and then you have a yellow one here, and you're getting to that point where it can get really scary, right? I wouldn't say really scary, but you start seeing rejections towards the downside. So I wouldn't be surprised that maybe we continue towards the upside. We start slow grinding towards the upside. Maybe we see some volatility heading into FOMC. Keep in mind, FOMC is at 2 Eastern tomorrow, so something you want to pay attention to as well. And I don't believe Jerome Powell is going to be hawkish, but given the market and just how much we've been pumping towards the upside, this can easily be a buy the rumor, sell the news, right? I would love to see a dip. And even the like I said in the Discord, even the most bullish of bulls, right? Even the most bullish of bulls have to admit that this is just getting ridiculous, right? Considering what we saw with Nvidia today and just the amount of partnerships, like several partnerships, guys, in one day, and just all this news coming out all in one day, you gotta admit that all right, it's getting kind of crazy, right? It's getting kind of crazy, and I'm still gonna trade the upside, right? I mean, today we traded Intel towards the upside in Discord. We jumped into 45 strike calls. We made a nice little profit off that. We jumped in at around $40, and then Intel headed towards like what 43. We ended up taking profit there, but I do believe Intel is going to head towards $45 right here where these guys are. So you know something to look into, assuming that Intel doesn't gap up or anything like that. But yeah, we're going to continue to trade the upside. I mean, one of our admins alerted BE calls right for earnings, and we jumped into those. So shout out to Bless in the Discord, made an absolute killing or currently making a killing. Hopefully this holds at open so I don't end up looking stupid right? But right now we're witnessing BE pump towards the upside, right? We jumped into 130 calls, 140 calls as well. Some jumped into 130, some jumped into 140 calls. And so far, we're looking good after hours. I jumped in at around 111. I'm sure the other Discord members jumped in at around 113, 112. But right now, this thing is at 136 after hours. So looking pretty good so far. So if you want access to plays like this, Discord link is in the description below. I do believe this is going to head towards 150. We'll have to wait and see. But like I was saying, like we're going to continue to trade the upside until something gives, right? Now, what I will recommend here is to just be cautious. Take profit when you can. And this is just me. You do what you want, right? But take profit when you can. You see green, you take green. I get questions all the time. Should I take profit on this? Should I take profit on that? And just given the market and just how overextended it is on much smaller time frames, yes, you should always be looking to take profit, right? It should not be a question because you have to realize that it's getting pretty crazy, right? It's getting overextended. And so we look at IWM weekly time frame. You have this absolutely beautiful ascending triangle here, right? You have a flat top and then you're creating higher lows. And at this point on, if IWM manages to stay above 245 and hold, IWM can continue to make new highs from this point on. Now we're kind of seeing it not have any life as of recently, as of this week, but IWM can really start making new highs if we manage to hold above this ascending triangle. And at that point, I mean, given the projected move, this thing can absolutely blow, right? So something else you want to pay attention to. Now, we did see a lot of 240 strike puts come in on cheddar flow for the past 2 weeks. So it could be that hedge funds are, hedging is very much possible. Investors are just hedging their positions. We don't know. But IWM is something you want to pay attention to. If it breaks below 245 and hold, then those 240 strike puts might be in play. They actually are in play. They're actually in profit, or the ones that we recently saw in the Discord are in profit. So something you want to pay attention to. And so that leads me to talk about Bitcoin, right? And so Bitcoin is pretty interesting considering that Bitcoin is not moving with the market at all, right? And this is what I said before. Bitcoin can either be a leading indicator or it can be a lagging indicator, right? And right now it's looking like it's a lagging indicator. So we still have this rising wedge here, right, forming on Bitcoin, or it's already formed on Bitcoin. And so right now we're just trading at the bottom of it, and we're still holding that key level of 109k, right? 109, around 109. I'm pretty off here. Hold on. So around 109.3 and then 107. I usually just do this, mark my settings, and then mark the level. But regardless, you guys get the idea. So 109.3k and then 107k are your key levels. And as you guys see, we're pretty much mounting this 107k, 109k level. And what we want to see with Bitcoin is a break and hold above 115k. We talked about this in the last video, and Bitcoin just cannot make it happen, right? And that's scary, right? And that is scary, the fact that Bitcoin is kind of falling behind. But maybe we're speaking too soon. Bitcoin does move off of rate cut news, so very much possible that tomorrow's news can cause Bitcoin to really go parabolic, or it could cause Bitcoin to crash back towards the downside and hit that 104k target. We don't know, but for now, I'm still bullish on Bitcoin. I still believe Bitcoin is going to see 150k by the end of the year, maybe even early 2026. Bitcoin is fine. Again, worst case scenario, you just hit the bottom of this rising wedge and then you continue back towards the upside. That's just my personal opinion. You guys let me know what you think in the comments below. But there's a lot of structure here, and it's very hard to break above this structure. So I do imagine Bitcoin is going to need news. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happens sometime this week, given the current situation of the market, the current conditions of the market, right? So that's what we're looking at when it comes to Bitcoin. MSTR. So when it comes to MSTR, you're looking at the weekly time frame here. And MSTR still bugs me because I do believe that if MSTR manages to continue to break down or break below this guy right here, so let me mark it out for you guys. If MSTR continues to break down this level right here at around 285, then you can start heading towards the 260s, if not as low as the 250s. So MSTR is something you want to pay attention to. Obviously, it follows Bitcoin, but right now there's just a lot of bears on these weekly time frames when it comes to MSTR. So Coin does have earnings this week. Me, I'm not too optimistic on Coin. Coin pretty much did everything I wanted it to do. I had a price target of 400. We didn't get there. Well, we actually did get there. We got there a few weeks ago, but regardless, I've been giving you guys a price target of 400. People were calling me crazy, and here we are. But now I just don't really have much for coin. I guess you can just hit the top of this trend all over again at around 450. Then from there, I do imagine that that's pretty much it. We'll see. All right, so that's what I have for a coin, and then I want to talk about Tesla because Tesla, like I said, as long as Tesla stays above 450, not 450, 440, then you can head towards the 500s. Right now, my short term target is 468 when it comes to Tesla, and I do believe we're going to hit that target pretty soon. We'll see. But 440, 450 is your psych level. We saw Tesla pretty much retest 450, and then it pretty much bounced from there. And yeah, you should be in profit had you jumped in at 450. I said this in the Discord. And so I want to talk about gold. So there's a lot of hype around gold, right? Obviously. And so one thing I will say is that Bitcoin becomes bullish when gold starts to consolidate, right? Now, me personally, I do believe gold is going to see more downside. I do. When you're looking at the weekly time frame, you rejected the top of this trend. So you had a rejection here, and you hit the top of this trend and you're rejecting towards the downside. You're very illiquid towards 3,600, if not 3,500, right? So I do imagine that gold is going to continue to see more downside. Keep in mind, this is the weekly time frame, so don't expect this to happen overnight. It's really insane that I have to say that, but you'll be surprised. 3,600 is what I'm looking at for gold. I think it's done for now, right? That's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. If it can manage to reclaim 4K, maybe head towards 4,020, but then even from there, I still would lean bearish towards gold. So even if it does, right? Even if it does reclaim 4K, I will wait and see if it's just a simple, liquidity grab before heading back towards the downside. Because we can easily see something towards, above 4K, and then we hit 4,100, and then we just head back towards the downside and create a lower high. But for now, I think gold is looking pretty weak. I'm sure there's a lot of euphoria around it, and that's the best time that sales happen, right? Where the things start getting shorted, when everyone's euphoric, when everyone start buying gold at highs. Like, it's actually insane that people are buying gold at highs. That's insane, but whatever. Do what you want. All right, so that leads me to the last thing I want to say is that you want to pay attention to social media, right? A top is near when people start getting mad, right? And even in my comments, right, in my YouTube comments, sometimes if I start flipping bearish, right, or if I even make one bearish video, I'll be like, I'll make like two 20 bullish videos in a row, and then that one bearish video, will start attracting the trolls and the haters and the people that get angry, right? But when you start seeing this consistently, when you start seeing people consistently get mad at people being bearish or starting to flip bearish, that's when you know a top is near. And the reason why I say that is because that's when euphoria is kicking in and people start believing that, oh, the market is just never going to stop climbing, right? The market is just going to continue towards the upside nonstop. There's no such thing as a correction. Crashes don't happen. Dips don't happen. You're crazy, right? And you're going to start seeing people argue in YouTube comments, not just mine, just in general, social media, all that. And you start seeing, and I've done this before, right? I've been doing YouTube for about 5 years, on and off, but 5 years now, and I've seen it. I've witnessed it in real time, and it even happened with crypto, right? You saw crypto like altcoins going crazy, Bitcoin going crazy, and the moment people start flipping bearish, I remember I made a bearish video on Bitcoin, and people got angry in my comments, and then boom, next day Bitcoin tanked. Insane, right? So, and that was an emergency video. That was an absolute warning video that I made, and this was years ago. So, when you start seeing people, traders, retail traders, get angry on everyone flipping bearish, or not everyone, but a certain amount of people flipping bearish, that's when you know the top is in. But for now, I don't think the top is in. Maybe you see a short term pullback, but other than that, I think we're going to continue towards the upside. You guys let me know what you think in the comments below. And until the next video, traders, have a good one.